Welcome to this chess video, everyone. I just recently played this game against a chess.com friend of mine, and this is a really instructional one, so if you're looking for a video how to face against the Englund Gambit, then this is the video for you. If you would like me to go over one of your own games, you can send them into this forum thread here, and there's a chance I might make a video out of it. So let's play the Englund Gambit, which is e5. Most of you will probably know this if you're looking up this video. And the line I like is bishop to f4. That's kind of the start of this. Of course, I'm defending this pawn. But of course, the main trap of the Englund Gambit here is this move with the queen is a check, but it also looks like it forks the bishop. But it's still open in theory, and it's really good for white. They play it. I bring the bishop back to block the check, which really just provokes them to capture on b2. And now we continue development, knight to c3. And this is a perfect example of why you generally don't want to bring the queen out so early. Right now material is equal, but we're happy to sacrifice even a pawn or two if it means continuing developing our pieces. This queen is a little misplaced on the edge of the board, and more importantly, it is just one piece. And as strong as the queen is, it's not going to be able to do a ton of damage on its own as long as you're careful. Now the main move of the Englund Gambit here is bishop to b4, and that is what my opponent played. There's a very tricky sideline with knight to b4, and if you want to see how I dismantle that variation, you can check out this video here. But for now they played the main line, rook to b1, forcing the queen to a3, and now I'm still in my opening prep. I go knight to d5, we're putting a lot of pressure on this bishop, but we also have a very serious threat of this fork on c7. And so usually black is going to trade bishops on d2. In the game I was actually calculating if they play the queen here, and I realized that would just blunder a piece. Because then I can just capture this, and they just simply don't have enough defenders. I can just capture here and we're up 3 points of material. And so instead of that, the opponent tried bishop to a5, but the engine approves this is a pretty good move for black. But now white has at least two routes they can choose from. The one that I like to play is pawn e4. We've played good developing moves, now we can try and grab the center. Rook to b5 is a really cool alternative, more or less forcing the trade of bishops, capture back. But now black still has to worry about this knight fork on c7, and because of our rook and queen, they no longer have the queen to a5 trying to defend. And so king to d8 is objectively best according to the computer, and then we play e4 anyway. So if you like this variation, then by all means you can try it. For me, I don't really love my rook hanging out here. It's not bad by any means, but it's a little bit loose. The only thing defending it is my bishop. And so simply back here, I prefer to start with e4. They try and get developed, which according to the computer is the best move. Again, my opponent is playing the best move a lot of the time. I just simply don't like this opening for black. It's also worth noting that the knight really would belong on f6 to try and control a little bit more of the center, but this pawn controls that square. And so now I made, I think, the first inaccuracy on my part, which is I went bishop to c4. Looks like a very natural developing move. It is a good move. I'd like to comment that if they wanted to trade, I was intending to capture with the pawn. But I figured my bishop controls a little bit of the center. The problem with this move, and why it's inaccurate, is because the postgame analysis says that queen to a4 kind of embarrasses this bishop. The best move is actually back to e2, letting black capture a central pawn. You can capture here and ruin their castling rights. Notice that knight captures here is not really good because bishop captures a5. So king captures, and now because they've lost castling rights, we simply exploit that, no surprise to anyone, by castling. And white has a really good position here. But I wasn't thinking any of that in the game, and so that's why I played bishop to c4. Knowing that now, I'll probably play bishop to e2 next time. The real game continued with them trading, and as mentioned, I choose to capture with the pawn. They trade bishops, I capture, and if knight to e7, I was intending to just castle. Instead, they play knight to d8, and this is a really good illustration of piece development and control of the center. If we look at black, they have literally everything on the back rank, and they are uncastled. The only exception to that is their queen hanging out here on a3, and that's pretty inactive. It's not really doing too much on that side of the board. We compare that to white, which has 4 pieces developed and intending to get castled very soon. Not to mention we have much more central space because of these advanced pawns acting as a pawn duo. But okay, the point has been made. White chooses to castle here. Black does the same. And I like my move, but there was actually even better. My move was queen to g5, bringing another piece closer to their king. Realizing that they are completely undeveloped, long term I can get this knight to g5, maybe reroute my bishop, put pressure this way, and white is definitely with a slight advantage. But even better than that was actually start with the knight, which I didn't really think of, but this is why you have to analyze your own games. It really helps you come up with improvements. They'll probably want to kick my knight back, and then I play knight e4. And if they're not careful, knight to f6 is a possible threat. I may even consider sacrificing it at some point, because then the queen here looks very strong, and I may even get a rook lift, with tempo on the queen, again being misplaced, and then slide the rook over, and that's going to be very difficult for them to address. Now returning to the game, they play pawn d6, which is good because now this square is defended by their bishop. If they hadn't played that, I might have considered something like knight to d4 and then heading to f5, threatening checkmate on g7. And so with many good moves here, I chose to relocate my bishop. Now the engine preferred gaining a tempo on the queen, possibly swinging my rook over, or a different savage alternative they thought of was just queen to e7, and were infiltrating in kind of an annoying way. The idea with my bishop move was I was intending queen to h4. I can actually put it on the board just to illustrate. Let's say they capture e5, I wasn't even going to capture back. I was just intending queen to h4, provoking them to play move like g6, then knight to g5, expecting pawn to h5, and then we can reroute our knight, and now we're making a lot of use of these weak dark squares. Of course, it doesn't have to go that way. If we go back a few moves, g6 is not best, but it's a natural move to look at. The engine likes h6 to try and keep the knight out, but then we can just recapture back, and we still have a lot of pieces near their king. Now in the real game, maybe they anticipated my queen putting pressure on this square, and so they play g6 voluntarily. But being unprovoked, this is objectively a mistake because now they have a lot of weak dark squares. And what minor piece are they missing? Well, yes, they're missing the other knight as well, but the one I'm referring to is the dark square bishop. So now they have all these weaknesses, which are dark squares, and they would really prefer to have this bishop fianchettoed to help control some of these weak squares. But they are lacking that piece, and so if they're not careful, white can start putting their pieces on dark squares and trying to slowly sneak in towards their king. Now keep that in your back in mind as we continue these moves. I start with queen to h6, notice the queen is on a dark square, and it also prevents the pawn from advancing. So now white's threat is knight to g5, and a not so subtle checkmate threat with the queen on h7. And so I was anticipating them to play pawn to f6, and that is objectively best, it's exactly what they played. But now e captures f6, and what I thought they would do is rook captures, knight to g5, and then this in-between move, knight f7, is what I was calculating. They played their move at this point, so I wasn't able to calculate further. What the engine suggests is taking here first, and then trading this way, and this is actually a forced checkmate. I'll show it just because it's instructional. They can come here, they have to block the bishop, we capture it with check, they move over, another check, they have to block, and then we capture with the bishop, pawn takes, and then rook is actually checkmate. Now I didn't get that far into calculating that variation of rook captures f6 because at this point they surprised me and they played knight to f7 right away. And I should have seen it instantly, but I didn't. I was considering ideas like this, possible ideas like this. I know my queen is under attack, but my first instinct wasn't even to move it. I thought we had a lot of pressure, might even be able to force a checkmate with the minor pieces. But then I realized, okay, better was of course checkmate in 1. And that's when I found the move and ended up playing it. And so just like that, in 18 moves, the game ended. Now to make this instructional, what did they actually do wrong? Because if we go back, I think they played really well. They actually played the best move quite often. And really, I think it was just the opening choice. In my personal opinion, I think the Englund Gambit is probably one of the worst openings you can choose as black, objectively speaking. Really, you're playing for a lot of tactical tricks and hoping that the player playing white is unprepared. But actually, I think there's a few ways you can deal with this opening. And the line I play is just my preference. There's a few other variations you can play if you really wanted to study this. You only really need one as white. Now if we go back to this opening to kind of illustrate the point, it goes like this, I prefer this move, and we allow this. But the really instructional point is this, just look at the image here. Their queen is misplaced, and they have one developed piece. We have 3 developed pieces, and a lot of potential to bring more into play. They continue developing, while developing the rook to the half-open file, they move again, and knight d5 just shows how severely behind they are in development when we can be attacking their king with tempo. But again, what did black really do wrong? They just followed opening theory, and objectively this is fine for white, and black is really behind already. Okay, I hope this video helped everyone, especially if you struggle against the Englund Gambit. Now you know how to play against it as white. Thanks for stopping by, I'll see you in the next chess video.